So the first step is the long range planning. So the key things there for us would be, for example, licensure in specific states. Sometimes getting additional engineering licenses can be time consuming. It's also expensive. And so we look at specific types of events, especially hurricanes. And, everywhere from typically Virginia all the way over to Texas, before every season, we're doing a head count and how many licenses do we have in each one of these states. And of course, every storm that occurs gives us a historical model of what can happen next. So we do have a decent idea of not only how many engineers we're going to need at the peak, but how many we're going to need over the next 6 months to a year, because for us, these events go on for a long period of time. So the second part of long range planning is training. So we do very, very specific in-house training on many topics, especially flood and hurricanes. So we need to make sure not only are those engineers licensed in specific places, but they have the proper training. And we don't want to try to wait to the last minute to do that. So, not just for flood, which, has its own unique properties, but hurricane wind versus water. And every particular event has its own, type of training. We have earthquake training, we have tornado training, things that you should expect to see, and that kind of thing. So that's the first part. The second part is just like the carriers would do, is we're watching the weather, we're forecasting. And, that's more specifically to hurricanes, but also floods. We're looking at, Texas has been wet for quite a while, and every new storm that comes through is adding to already high water levels. So we know that we should expect ongoing flooding. And we've seen that before in Texas, where in May we have major floods, and then a month later in June we have major floods. So we're kind of looking at that in terms of staffing and training. And then there's the short-term planning, where we get into, okay, we have a hurricane, we expect it to make landfall in 3 days. At that point, we start making schedules, moving equipment, renting hotel rooms, moving vehicles, just like the carriers normally do. And when we build a schedule, what's a little bit different for us is it's usually a week to 2 weeks before we get on the ground. The adjusters have to get out there first and decide when they need engineers. So we know there's a lag, but our peak tends to be 3 to 4 weeks after landfall or the storm occurrence before we start peaking. And again, we look at every past storm and we try to find an analogy to the current one. And we then predict how many engineers we're going to need week 1, 2, 3 for the next 3 months. And we actually schedule for that. And then over those 3 months, we'll schedule out the next 3 months and then for the full year, because typically we'll still respond to an event 2 years out. So that's a big deal. And, I take a lot of pride in that we've gotten very good at that. So like when Irma hit in Southwest Florida, we really nailed exactly how many jobs we were going to get. I mean, not say exact, but we were never more than 2 weeks out from being on site from getting a job. In fact, we were often still scheduling jobs for next week, this week, because we had put enough resources out there that we were able to get to the job quickly. And that's what's important to our clients, is us getting to the job quickly and obviously turning a report around quickly. So we base a lot of our planning on trying to meet our clients' needs.
Well, and with Donan's vast experience, 75 plus years, I'm sure we've got a pretty big database of data to help guide those decisions. As far as we've seen this 5 years ago, we saw this 10 years ago. It certainly helps. Kevin, you'd mentioned something earlier about time to site, right? 24 to 48 hours. And on a previous episode of the podcast, we were talking to two of our lead fire investigators, and obviously with fire claims, that's very important, right? Spoliation of evidence, getting there on time. They both had go bags. I'm just curious, when you were on the CAT team, do you have a physical duffel bag with toothbrush and toiletries ready to go when you were working CAT claims?
I had 2 separate sets of clothing and gear. Like I had my home stuff, and then I had 2 suitcases that never got unpacked when I got home. Oh, lie. So the laundry got done, but they went right back into the suitcase. And those are just always ready to go. And flying most places, I had 50-pound limit? Yeah, I had 100 pounds worth of stuff. And I think I could pack those 2 suitcases within a few ounces of 100 pounds to make sure I had both stuff that's important to get the job done, but also, since you're living out of a hotel, you have just the basics to make it not feel like you're living out of a hotel 6 months out of the year. But yes, go bags were definitely one of those things. And mine was 2 rolling duffel bags and my backpack and a drone.